painful periods are not normal. That's number one. Excessively painful. And you're having all these other symptoms. You can't eat, you can't do anything, literally. There is a problem. Actually, there's a normalization of pain. You say, but even me, when I was growing up, I had that pain.
Kwani you are the first woman to go through that. Is actually what mothers tell. Yeah.
Once again, I want to welcome you to Shared Moments with Justus here on these conversations that just never get, we never get enough of it. And this is the Reproductive Health Conversation. My guests, as usual, are not guests. Are you guests? My gang. So once again, I'm joined by the only flower on the set, Caro, your health coach.
I'm sure if right now I went to Doctor's clinic and you checked my estrogen, I feel protected, I feel loved, attention, affection, appreciation. I feel like a girl. I want to be a girl. A girl toto.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It's an honor. It's such an honor.
Welcome to the show once again.
Thank you.
We really appreciate the wealth of information and experience you've been bringing to this conversation.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to hearing some more from you today.
That's okay.
Karibu sana daktari.
Asante sana.
Dr. Kireki Omanwa.
Nafikiri hapa tuko nyumbani.
Everything is coming out so naturally. You're oozing all the wisdom and making sure that whatever we are sharing here is not just informative, but it's also factual.
Yes.
It's been such a pleasure hearing from you. Personally, I've learned so much from the time we began these conversations.
Yes.
I can't imagine how much more there is that I thought I knew.
Yes.
And man, it's amazing. Welcome to the show.
Asante sana.
Yeah. How has it been so far, the few episodes that we've been able to do for you?
I think they have been wonderful. We have talked, and I've also learned quite a lot, by the way, especially from the female side of things, the way they look at things, the way they perceive them, the way they internalize the information. Yes. And also the way they approach issues, which is completely different from what we men actually do, and the way we approach things.
Yeah.
The emotional bit, which men are not very emotional when it comes to that. But again, women are very, very emotional, and this is part of their psyche.
Yes.
And I think that is why God created them male and female,
right?
Completely opposite, but they come in nicely
to complement
each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It has been a lovely experience, and I always look forward to the day that we are meeting. You guys are full of good, beautiful energy. The production, it's just a good synergy.
Right.
Yes. I was used to when I could meet doctors who can speak big things, big words. But Dr. Kireki, he makes it so easy. He makes it so easy
and
for
relatable.
us. And very relatable. Yeah. And you make it a conversation. Yeah. Because if we came here and we were told it's very rigid, we would not be able to do this. But it has been great.
Good.
I'm still trying to figure out men.
Yeah.
Very easy to do that. Straightforward.
Very straightforward.
Yes. There is that. I think I saw this. Was it in Facebook or somewhere? Where they said how to understand a man. There was, I think, one page. One page. Yes.
And the woman.
And then how to understand a woman. It was a.
And it was part one.
And that was part one. And say there are many more parts to come.
It's beautiful to be able to blend, to sit here and talk from a man's perspective, a woman's perspective, a professional. I mean, a blend of everything.
Yeah.
I can imagine what these sessions are doing.
And these rediscoveries are meant to just make life beautiful.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we hope that has been your experience for the few episodes we've been able to share with you. And if you're watching us for the very first time, there's a lot that we have shared that I think you need to go back and check. It's going to be a wealth of knowledge that you never knew you needed, and yet it's going to make all the difference in your life. Today, we are talking about something that is at the core of our lives, not just for women, even though it might seem as if it's a woman issue. This is painful menstruation, painful menses or periods, for those who would want to call it so. most of the times, Carol, we leave the conversation on menses to women.
Yes.
So when it happens, when some women are going through menstruation in a painful manner, of course it affects everything else around them.
And let me shock
and we
you.
are the people around them.
Let me shock you. When you are experiencing, I don't know how scientific true this is, but when you're experiencing painful menstruation, and the man you love, not the man you love or the man that loves you, is there by your side, the pain is reduced. But physically, I don't know whether it's a release of some hormones, but you feel happier and better, and the pain reduces. So when that man who loves you or who you love is there, not necessarily there physically, but maybe takes care of you, maybe you are having a back pain and he massages you, somehow it will calm down.
So can we write a prescription then?
I didn't want to go directly to the point, but we can say that is a prescription.
When ladies are having painful menses,
Yes.
men, please massage your wife.
And not every
your
man, the
partners.
man that you love.
The man, of course, the man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Massage them once or twice a day and be there.
Be there,
And be
just give
there.
them
Yes.
some warm water. Yes, just that.
So I think I can start prescribing that.
Yes.
So let's get to it, and perhaps start from the definitions of things. When we are talking about painful periods, it means that there's the opposite of periods or menses or menstruation, which a process then as a woman needs to go through without what we are calling pain.
Yeah.
So, Daktari, let me start this with you.
Yes. You see, when a girl child is born and starts growing slowly, reaches a certain stage, you see, even what the Bible says that we are wonderfully, beautifully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
It reaches a certain stage, around 12. Others may start a little bit early, around 11. But by and large, on average, around 13, 14 years, what we call the endocrine system. What is the endocrine system? The endocrine system is a system of hormones. And what is a hormone? A hormone is a product or is a protein which is released into the bloodstream. And it has what we call target organs. And it goes and helps these target organs to function optimally, or to function the way they are supposed to function optimally. For example, when you talk about hormones, when you look at Justus has a beard.
Yes.
You don't have a beard. Justus has a deep voice. You have a high voice.
Yes.
You have breasts. Justus doesn't, and so on. So this is a function of the hormones.
Yes.
There are male hormones and
the
there are female hormones.
Yes.
So here we are going to talk about, when you talk about the menstrual cycle and menstruation, we cannot talk about it without mentioning hormones.
Yes.
So what happens is that when this young lady gets to around 13, 14, what you call secondary sexual characteristics start happening. Those boys who used to be stupid and whatever, you never wanted to talk to, even to go near to them, you start finding them a little bit attractive. Actually, he's not so bad looking.
Not doing bad.
And even for us, you start saying, that girl used to be skinny. After all. So that attraction, again, is because of the hormones and because of all these things which actually regulate the way our bodies function, and we are getting to maturity and so on. So menstruation is that time when a lady has her first period. We actually call it menarche. That is the first time a woman has her period. And this is actually one of the basic questions that we ask when a patient comes. When was your first period? It has implications as well, because if you have a late menarche, when you start your periods late, there could have been a problem. There are women who don't have any periods at all, have never had a period at all. So that also has implications as well. So when it comes to that period, what happens is, essentially, there's a part of the brain called the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland actually is like a small, almost looks like a pea, slightly bigger than a pea, which controls hormones which are released. And they are released, some of them are released cyclically, others are released all the time. Now, when it comes to the female hormones, they release a hormone which tells the ovaries now to start working. And the ovaries is basically the store of eggs.
Yes,
And usually ladies are born with about 1 million eggs. That is when they're infants. But by the time they start their first period, that number has dropped by about half. So it comes to about 500. There's a reason for that. Now, these hormones, the pituitary gland sends information to the ovaries. And it tells the ovaries, now we need you to bring out one of those eggs. And there are many of them which are dormant. All these millions of eggs are dormant. Many of these eggs are actually stimulated by one of the hormones called follicle stimulating hormone. So as it stimulates, it tells all those eggs, guys, can you wake up, wake up? You know, it's a random thing, okay? And many of them are woken up. But it depends on what we call receptors. You talked about target organs. So that follicle stimulating hormone works on what we call receptors of these follicles. A follicle is what carries an egg, and the one which has the most follicles will get the most follicle stimulating. So this one is the one which will grow and will carry an egg in it. Now, as it is growing, it starts releasing another hormone as well. Remember, we talked about estrogen.
Yes.
That estrogen is important. Apart from the secondary sexual characteristics that we talked about, it works on the womb. Okay? And the womb is basically where a baby grows.
Yes.
And the womb has what you call a lining, what is called an endometrium. Now, it works on that lining. It helps the blood vessels to open up. It accumulates glucose and so on in preparation for the baby to implant. Sawa sawa. Now, when it reaches around day 9, day 10, day 12 of the cycle, there is what we call ovulation. Again, this is because there is another hormone. Now, that follicle which was growing, when it reaches a certain size, it sends a message back to the pituitary gland and tells it, I don't want to grow anymore. I'm mature. So the pituitary gland says, okay, you are mature, then you need to release the egg which you're carrying. And it sends another hormone called luteinizing hormone. What the luteinizing hormone does, it comes and works on that follicle, which carries an egg in it, and makes it to pop. Okay? Now, as it is released, remember, just below where the egg is, the ovary, there is the tube.
Yes,
And the tube at the end, the fallopian tubes, it has finger-like projections. So once that egg has been released, that egg is collected into the tube. All right? Now, if at that time, that ovulation time, you remember you said there's a time when you just feel like you just want to be held.
Yes.
It's a time you feel like now this is the real time when you really want to have intercourse. That is that ovulation time. And it is the way the female body is actually programmed. So if there is intercourse at that time and everything is okay, and the sperm travel through the womb and they get to, it's at a particular place in the tube, and they get there at the right time. When the egg is there, those millions of sperms will congregate around the egg, and only one of those sperms will actually drill like a small hole, and it releases an acid, by the way. Drills a small hole, and once it drills that hole, the egg just goes in. No, the sperm just goes in the head of the sperm. So fertilization occurs, and the baby now starts being formed from that process. Now, if that does not happen, there is no fertilization of the egg. There is no implantation of that embryo. What comes out is now a period or the menstruation or the menstrual flow. So basically the menstrual flow that we are talking about is that lining of the womb
Demolition
which
of the
comes
walls.
out. That is the menstrual flow that comes out. Now we are talking about painful periods and heavy periods and so on. Now normally that cycle is usually supposed to be 28 days. Others in Ezekwa 30 days. By and large, 28 plus or minus 7 days is a normal cycle. You may find others which are shorter, and you may find others which are longer. And there are reasons for that. If they are shorter, meaning that you may actually have 2 menstrual cycles in a month, it is called polymenorrhea, meaning poly, a lot. And menorrhea is basically the period. So you have many periods. But if you have longer cycles, where you have more than 35 days, I've had a patient who had a cycle every 1 year. Even 2 years, yes. So it is oligomenorrhea, meaning there are few periods, okay? And then there are others where you don't have periods at all, but that is a different story altogether. So today we are talking about painful periods. Yes.
Let's come to the pain. And who else to talk about?
I'm the pain.
Who else to talk about the pain than that who experiences the pain itself?
Yes.
And perhaps, Carol, you can start by giving us a little background, because when we're talking about menstruation, you have a story that touches on the same aspect that perhaps can also give context to our audience, even before you go into the aspect of what qualifies as a painful period and what doesn't.
First of all, I was looking at you the whole time you're explaining. I really want to listen and listen. You've explained it
very simply,
so well, so
and yet
easy,
so detailed.
and yet so detailed. And you've just reminded me a time that I was doing an outreach program, and I was somewhere in a village, and old women asked me, "What are periods?"
Yes.
And of
These
course,
are
I
old
couldn't.
women.
Yes, I couldn't tell them in the whole science, blah 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 blah. And somehow God revealed to me something when I was in the middle of this conversation, and He told me, "Stretch your hands," and told me, "These are the ovaries.
Yes.
These are the fingers of the fallopian
Actually,
tubes."
the ovaries are just below.
Yes, just here.
Yes.
And this is the fallopian
tube.
tube, and this is where
the
the baby lives, and this is the cervix and the exit. And I was like, "Ooh, this! Look at this, God!" And so then when I asked God, "How do I explain to these women what is period?" And He told me, "Tell them when you have visitors, you clean the house and you tandika the house, and you have these decorations. You remove the cups from the cupboard, and you are ready. When the guests don't come, you have to undo what you did. So periods is the undoing of the womb, releasing the walls."
I think that's
that came from God. I did not even know. And when I explained to these women, they were like, "Oh," because they were asking, "So where does the blood come from?" So explaining, and then you have explained it in a way that my 15-year-old daughter would understand. Thank you very much for that.
Welcome.
So I'm a woman. You said a backstory. I will share 2 experiences. One, my own experience. I am a late bloomer. I started my periods at 16. And I faked to have periods for 3 years.
You faked?
Yes. Every girl was having periods. So me, I didn't have periods. I didn't have breasts. I didn't have hips. And there's even a time in Form 1 I was told by some girls, "You're not having your periods because you've not been touched by a boy."
There are such myths, by the way. Such myths.
And they told me, "So now we need to look for a boy in Form 4 to touch you." And they
find him?
We wrote a letter to him.
Like a Valentine.
And it was planned on this Sunday. Now you'll go and visit him, and he'll touch the breast so that you can have your periods.
Okay. All right.
And the rest is history. So the whole torture that I went through.
So did he touch you first of all, even before?
No, I ran away. I ran away.
As you were saying, you're running away from
And so that explains why my breast never grew from Form 1 to Form 3. Because they were not touched. So for 3 years, I mean, I was facing that
stigma.
Yes, everybody else is having it.
Yes, because I am such a baby, and also by I don't know, it's good luck or bad luck, I was in a mixed day secondary school. So boys will always know when girls are on their periods. You see, remember back then, talking about menstruation was something that was only for girls, and so boys will even you are deferred to as not mature. So you should not be talking to men because you are not mature.
Actually, talking about that, some societies have used that as a cutoff.
For maturity. Yes.
Said, okay, immediately a young lady has started having her periods, she's ready to be married.
Yes.
So she's mature. And that is why we have all these bad cultural practices as well. Amekeketwa, she started having her periods, ready to get married.
Yes, which is very sad because, as you said, periods can start at any time. And these days, because of our change of lifestyle, even younger people are having their periods. But that does not mean they are mature. That does not mean they are mature. So my personal experience is that, and why I'm passionate about talking about menstruation is because of such kind of stigma that I faced and the lies that I was told as a teenager. And imagine if I would have fallen into that, to those. And luckily it happened so because I focused on my studies. I used to be number one. So when you tell me about periods, maturity, I'll tell you about being number one.
And not
So,
being touched.
However, I lied to my mother. My mom, please forgive me, I will repay. So she bought pads for me every month. And if you ask me the content of a pad, I'll tell you because I really scrutinized to understand, and I used to hide them and just throw them away so that I can fit in. When the periods came, I was now a mature woman, in quotes, and that is when I also developed breasts and all these things. I was over the moon. But I remembered I was told when the periods come, you can get pregnant by hugging a boy or even coming close to a boy.
Osmosis.
Or even looking at a boy. You get pregnant. So then again, the fear came in. However, I'm really thankful that the years that I had my periods, I have never experienced pain myself. So I never had those pain. Maybe my emotions were, I used to cry, those things. But the physical pain, I never had it. And so I had a hysterectomy at 27, so I only had my periods from 16 to 27. Hysterectomy is, yes.
Removal
I removed now the crying, the walls that would cry, so I no longer have my periods. And so, but I'm also a mother to a teenage girl. And when my daughter started her periods, she has allowed me to talk about it because we really talk about it. And I'm glad we have been having these conversations even on social media with her so that she can help other people. So I have asked her for permission to share this, that she went through so much excruciating pain. And that is where I came into contact with painful periods. Because previously also my age mates, I'm not so old, but most of my age mates then, we were not discussing periods. It was not something to discuss. So you assume the kind of pain you're feeling is normal. So every woman would decide how pain, like you would only guess how painful it is for you.
Usually, where is this pain?
So most women will tell you they will cramp. How do I explain a cramp? Push and pull.
Especially for men who've never had
I know, I'm wondering, how do I explain? I think the easiest is push and pull. Like there's a whole push and pull. Yes, there's a tussle, especially the womb area. The womb area is here.
Is it almost like when you're having diarrhea, maybe?
Diarrhea is mild.
That is mild.
Yes, diarrhea is. And you see, diarrhea, there's gravity. Maybe it's helping. Now this one is going this side. It's everywhere. For a woman, maybe who's watching and they're wondering where their ovaries are, they are somewhere here. And that's why during the ovulation, they feel like pain here. So women will tell you they have pain here. There are others who will have the back pain. The back pain is massive. They'll tell you so. They are, depending on the level and the intensity of the pain that they are feeling, there are those who will nauseate. They'll behave like a pregnant woman. Okay, you don't know how a pregnant woman behaves. Nausea, headaches, in sleeplessness, that is insomnia or oversleeping. And mostly the pain, the one that it takes them, it's the muscles. It's actually the muscles that really ache. There are women who will come with all sorts of aches. Yes, and then there are those who will even be admitted in hospital because it's too painful. Then there are those who will just take something warm and it will...
And for you, you're saying you never at any point experienced pain.
I only experienced...
normal?
Oh, yeah.
Now, what is normal? What is normal? I think you should thank God that you never had any pain, you never had any cramps, you never had, back pain.
And I only had like 3 days of periods.
3 days of periods.
Nothing.
Yeah. Normally periods take anywhere between 3, sometimes to 5 days. Others go to 6 days. But again, that is the next question that we normally ask. When was your first period and when was your last period? And then are your periods regular? Said, yeah, they're regular. They come every 28, 30 days. And if they come, how long do they take? Oh, they take 3 days, 4 days. How heavy are they? Now, even before we go there, we say, and how are they? Meaning, how can you characterize them? Are they heavy? Are they light? Are they painful? Whatever. They said, oh, they are normal. Or they'll be heavy day 1, day 2, and then after that they peter off and everything is okay. And now the other question we ask is the pain. Is there any pain? Most of the time they'll say there are a bit of cramps here and there. But normally after taking paracetamol, 1 tablet, 2 tablets, we are okay with that. And the other quick question that we ask is, are there any clots, if they are heavy? And then we go a little bit further. Even when they're heavy, we say, do you use pads? How many pads do you use in a day? And this is my bread and butter. So I ask, which pads do you use? Kwa maana tunazijua in a day. So this sort of helps to give me an idea about the quantity of blood that we're using and possible consequences of that blood loss. Now, coming back to the pain, it's a very, very important question. We ask, okay, how is this pain? Say it just cramps and they come and they go. I use 1 tablet, 2 tablets, and I'm okay. Others say it is cyclical. Said, okay, what do you mean it's cyclical? It means it comes every month. Then I say, that is already a red flag. I say, okay, so if it comes every month, how many days before the period? Say it comes maybe 3 days to 1 week before the period. Said, okay. And when does it get to its crescendo, the highest point before it disappears? He says it gets to a crescendo just before I get the period. And once the period starts, the pain starts, sort of deflating and it disappears. And then what happens? And then it waits for the next cycle. So it is there every month and it comes at a particular time and it comes this way. So I have that is another second red flag. So it sort of gives me an idea about what kind of pain it could be. But others say mine usually comes around mid-cycle. Mid-cycle is around ovulation time. And usually, so I ask, is it always on one side? They say no. Sometimes it's on the right, sometimes it's on the left. So that one I put a tick. I say that is ovulation. That one there is no problem. She can deal with it. What we are worried more about is this cyclical pain which comes and then you cannot do anything. And then we ask, does it radiate anywhere? Yes, it radiates to the bottom, maybe sometimes even to the thigh. It goes to the back. I cannot do anything. Sometimes I puke. Sometimes I have diarrhea. And sometimes even those 3, 4, 5 days, I actually cannot do anything. I cannot go to work. I cannot go to school. My husband, I'm completely, quote unquote useless. So that is a problem. You ask about what is normal, that is abnormal. That is abnormal. And actually the pain, most of the time, what brings the pain? You remember we talked about the lining comes out, that preparation that you talked about. It is because of what you call prostaglandin. It is a chemical which is released, again, the way the human body is created, that leads to contraction of the uterus. And when it leads to the contraction of the uterus, that lining actually hangs on vessels, on blood vessels. So they contract. As they contract, that sheet comes out. That preparation just comes out. That lining comes out, and this is what comes out as a period. Now, you may ask, okay, so what could be the reasons for this? There could be some underlying factors. For example, when you have that pain, that diarrhea, vomiting, and so on, is something we call premenstrual syndrome. And this comes every month just before the period. That could be one of the reasons for those very painful periods. Some other reasons could be because of endometriosis, for example. And you remember we talked about the lining, which is called the endometrium. It comes out, and you said that's a beautiful, sort of illustration. Your hands are the fallopian tubes, and just below the hands we have the ovaries. Now, a bit of that lining can actually find its way onto the fallopian tubes, for example, onto the ovaries, for example. It can find its way into the tube, into the muscle of the womb itself, for example, and so on, or even in other areas. We had a colleague of ours who some time ago said he had a patient who had endometriosis. And this endometriosis, actually this young lady was a very complicated case, who would start bleeding, and she started bleeding from the ears, start bleeding from the palms as well, and also from the joints. It was something out of this world.
Endometriosis.
Endometriosis. So when it got to her time of period, and she was 16, it was just excruciating pain and this bleeding from all these funny places, which we told him, please write up that case and and publish it. Maybe somebody else out there can also find it and read it. You may also have what we call PID, pelvic inflammatory disease, and this is usually because of bacteria and so on, and they infect the pelvis and the organs there, change their structure such that by the time when the periods come, when those contractions come and that prostaglandin is released, you find it is very, 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 very painful. And there's something we call adenomyosis, where a bit of that lining gets embedded in the muscle of the womb itself. So the womb becomes swollen. It becomes painful during the periods. Issues of, even walking, it becomes a challenge. So all these things are reasons for very painful periods. A colleague of mine actually did a study, and he did it in one secondary school somewhere not very far from Nairobi, and then he found out that about 25% of the young girls who were in that school had problems with painful periods. And that was only in one school. So if a school has, let's say, 2,000 girls, 25%, a very big number.
And you see, sometimes we associate pain as part of the process.
Actually, there's a normalization of pain. You say, but even me, when I was growing up, I had that pain.
Kwani you are the first woman to go through. That is actually what mothers tell. Yeah. But when some of the things that trigger the breakdown of that communication, so the food that you eat also relates to the kind of pain that you will feel during your periods. And so when you know this as a mother, it is important to help your child grow up knowing, first of all, we ignore the diet that our children are eating. What you feed your child before her periods come, they will interfere with how the communication of the hormones will happen in future. For example, most of the processed foods are very rich with synthetic estrogen. So it is very important before even they start the periods, and this is not just for girls, even boys. Let us take care of the sperms of our boys. We assume that they will only start giving birth when they are grown men, so we no longer take care of them when they are younger. So let us observe the diet of the children, and that is one thing I'm very keen as a parent. I have been a conscious parent when it comes to that from before my daughter started her periods. And then when she started her periods, I have learned to feed her with foods that will be able to help manage those hormones. When she's in pain, it means something is not right. For me, I don't give painkillers. I don't give her painkillers because I want to help correct the hormones instead. So I look at the diet. I'll tell her, wake up, let's do for a walk, because we have just been explained. Most of the time it's the muscles that are contract. So if you sit there, because most girls will tell you, I just want to sit. So, well, there's that pain that you have, you cannot move. But the teenagers, if they can move, make them move. Physical activity will help the blood flow too. Provide the foods that are rich in magnesium. Magnesium nutrient is the one that helps the muscles relax. So if this girl is familiar with her own body, and it's not a secret, and it's not what we were told, that you will get pregnant when you come close to a boy, and then it's something very normal. One of the prayers I had was like, please God, when my daughter will be starting her periods, give me a chance to be there for her, because I wanted to be the person to take her through it. She has never been through this road. And this road is rough sometimes, especially remember, she's a teenager. Her hormones are all over doing this and there. So when you help this girl when she's young, even when now she's, I've learned something. I don't know whether it happens everywhere. Most women are prepared maybe slightly just before their periods, but when we are preparing for pregnancy, we give all the attention. Delivery, we give her, but we forget that it's this transition when she's starting her periods is also as important as the other one, as transiting to be a mother. And so we don't give it so much details, and follow up and all these things. Yeah. So for me, I check on their diet. I also help them because if someone has a deficiency of some of these minerals, they'll experience these things. Number two, if they get used to taking this medication through and through, what doctor is saying, do not become dependent on the pain killer, because the painkiller is not sorting the problem.
There's a woman who perhaps has never experienced pain, and then suddenly, you're experiencing pain to levels that are not normal in your own estimation.
Yes.
And you're saying that this could be anything.
Yes.
So the issue of self-medication, I think what Caro is
Yeah.
pointing to is very important, that
Yeah.
before you take
to know
matters
why.
into your own hands, that is why you're there.
Yes.
Yes, let us find out what the reason is for this what you call secondary dysmenorrhea, secondary pain, because it was not there. Because when you talk about primary dysmenorrhea, meaning that the pain was there right from the beginning. But the secondary one is that the periods, the menstrual pain was not there. And then after some time, the pain starts appearing. So the first thing we want to do is want to listen to this lady. We want to take down her history, a very comprehensive history. We want to do some tests. We want to do a blood test. We want to do a scan, and then we put all these things together. And if we do find out that it is, let's say, endometriosis, we want to find the extent of that endometriosis. And of course, now there is a different pathway of treating the endometriosis. If it is an issue of, of fibroids, there's a different pathway of treating them.
Even cervical cancer
fibroids.
has those
It is
symptoms,
cervical cancer,
yes.
but you see, the cervical cancer, when the pain comes, it is usually much later
pain,
on. It will have advanced. That is why it is imperative that we take our health seriously, that these checks, regular checks, are embedded in our
In
our
fact,
life.
that is what I was
Yes.
coming to in terms of these checks. At what stage, should a woman or a young girl be subjected to some of these checks, and how regular, because
I think Caro mentioned something very important, that parents, we need to be involved in our children's lives, especially not only our girls and also our boys. When my daughter started having a period, she came and told me that I've started having my periods, and I was like, Allah. And then, something which I'm proud of is that she would actually send me to buy pads for her. She would tell me, go and buy me this and this pads. And I would actually go and
At
buy.
least you, I would excuse. I'm sure you know. The other day I saw something on social media. There was this challenge on TikTok when women send men to go and buy pads.
Yes.
And I won't tell you. I tell Justus, go and buy me pads with wings. 90% of the men bought pads, then
And they
passed
bought
by the
wings.
chicken.
chicken wings.
Chicken
pads
wings
and wings.
and so when
Pads
he
and
comes
chicken
home, the
wings.
woman is asking her, so what? No, these are pads
These are
with
wings.
The wings.
Yes.
And you say, need pads and wings.
Yes.
I don't think there's a
Most
problem
men-
there. What was the problem?
It is very important, and that challenge really proved that actually
We don't know.
men don't. And then there's this advert that is done when a man is sent and then he goes to a supermarket and he finds so many brands, and he carries everything because he doesn't know which one is which one.
Yeah.
But it's important for men to at least to changamke. You see, now you are sent and you can be able to bring.
And talking of pads, Daktari,
yes.
I've had conversations around pads in terms of how that could also be a contributor
factor
to
to
the
the
type
pain.
of pads that we use.
Yes. I can't tell you a lot about that because there's so many pads which are in the market and they're all made in different ways. And actually talking about pads, we have a very big problem in this country. When you talk about menstrual hygiene, there are places, and we know there are young girls who unfortunately cannot afford, their parents cannot afford to buy a pad for them to use during that that time when they are having these visitors, as we call them.
Yes.
And they end up doing very funny things in order for them to be able to do that. Somebody promises them 100 bob or whatever it is, and they have intercourse with them, and they have teenage pregnancies, and HIV, and so on and so forth. So it is actually something which is not good for us as a country, for us as parents as well. So we have a challenge there for sure. There have been pads which are made from different materials, and there has been a question mark about the safety of some of the materials which are used in these pads. That is a different story altogether. But by and large, and what I want to say is that any girl should have access, or every girl should have access to these pads because of menstrual hygiene. That is why I think these conversations are important. The men, maybe they don't understand what that cycle means, what it entails, and why. Not even why, but why it is there.
What is the takeaway?
What I would say the takeaway message is that painful periods are not normal. That's number one. Excessively painful. Because the ones, remember I talked about a lady using 1 or 2 tablets of painkillers and they're okay with that. But if the painkillers are not working and you're having all these other symptoms, you can't eat, you can't do anything, literally, there is a problem. And that is number one. Number two, men. I'm talking to us now, men. Let us not look at the periods as something which is, is a stigma. It is something which is normal. We need to understand it. We need to accept it. And that this is the way our women are created. And this is something which happens every month. And it is healthy that they have it.
As much as we are talking about all these things, be keen on the lifestyle that you're living. It impacts a lot in the adolescent stage, reproductive age, and even postmenopausal. All these women pain, that we call them the women pain, are highly impacted by the kind of a lifestyle that you are living. So it's very important to know your body, understand it, and also see how you can help that body to keep functioning. It knows how to deal with it. And so if you are in that pain, and don't self-medicate, please don't self-medicate. Let's do the test through daktari, and then if you have that problem and you'd want to change the lifestyle or to manage the lifestyle, I'm here to help you.
Yeah, so if you've been watching us, you're a young girl or a mature woman, and you feel like what we have talked about today is something that you need to take action about, then these are the people you need to start by reaching to. And so if you would want to reach out to Carol directly, this is how.
Oh, yes, Carol, your health coach on all the social media platforms. If you'd like to DM or send a message, you can also go to my website, www.rnb.co.ke, or you can give us a call, +254 711 621563, +254 711 621563.
Yes, my clinic is located at 5th Avenue offices on the 3rd floor. Suite 314, and this is on Ngong Road in Nairobi. I haven't gone to other towns, but God willing, we'll be there.
Welcome.
So you're welcome.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all your time, and I know that this information really is important and helpful, not just to those of us seated here, but to many of you watching. And if you have any other concern or topic you'd like us to consider in our next conversation, write to us, send us an email, or in the comment section, let us know what you want us to talk about next time. Until then, God bless you.